Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
What's up, buddy? What's up, buddy? Is what
What's
I'm
up,
about to say.
buddy?
What's up, buddy? New intro to the show. What's up, nerds? Welcome to another episode of the Multiverse Report. We're recapping Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 5, and The Bad Batch Season 2 finale from, I forgot my places. Man, this is the worst intro ever.
Ariadu to Mount
Iradu
Tantus?
to Mandalore. Yeah,
Yeah.
and everywhere in between. My name is Mike Gibson. Steve, start talking and save me from this terrible, terrible intro.
Hey, we've had worse over the years, but yeah, no,
We have.
it's up there. But yeah, if anyone is in, I guess straight off the bat, spoiler warning for either of these properties and anything and everything Star Wars at this point, because we're probably going to end up going deep, and there's one big spoiler that we're going to get into. Well, more of a cameo and where it's going to lead, but
there were so many cameos.
Yes,
I think
there were
in both of these.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, both of these combined, just cameo city this week in Star Wars.
Yes,
and I was very excited about all of them.
Oh, I was there for all of it. Yeah. So I guess there's one name that needs to start this episode.
There's one in we're talking about Mando first?
Yeah, Mando first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Garazeb Aurelios, baby, in live action. So for any,
I lost my mind.
Yeah, I was.
So yeah.
Yeah, it was just like I saw it on the screen. I'm like, but it's a Lasat, and then I heard the voice. I'm like, that sounds like, no, that can't be. That there's no. Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah. I did like a gasp.
Yeah.
And my wife's like, what? And I was like, is that Zeb? And she's like, who? That was Zeb. I don't know who Zeb is.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, so yeah, Mandalorian. I thought this was a really cool episode. It was a fun episode.
It was.
And it kind of connected a few things that you and I had been meh about on this season so far, how it seemed like a lot of disparate plot lines that didn't seem like they were coming together anytime soon, and bam, this episode kind of nailed it. Because you and I were texting kind of like, I don't know if this season's like weird, like what's happening. I don't really know like what direction is this season going in.
Right.
It seemed like they were like setting things up. Like they're like, oh, I have to bathe in the living waters of Mandalore. I was like, oh, that's going to be the driver of the whole season. But nope, he just does it in the next episode.
Right.
He's done. Like, oh, okay.
Lands on the planet, takes a dip, problem solved.
Yeah, problem solved. I was like, oh, okay. I felt like that was going to be the whole season. I thought was him trying to get there or something, but nope. But this brings back, or it brings together his reintegration with his Mandalorian buddies that are in his religious cult. It pulls Bo-Katan Kryze and her storyline tighter into that sect of Mandalorians and Din Djarin, and it also bridges what they are doing with what we learned in the first episode about what's that guy's name? Grief Karga. I can never remember his name. Him and Rule being the new High Magistrate of Navarro or whatever, that seemed just like a super filler, out of place. What is going on in this first episode of the season? Now those things have all come together in a way that I think is satisfying, and now it seems like they are forecasting the remainder of the season by what happened at the end of this episode. But all of that said, I like this episode a lot. And I guess I just wanted to give like a little bit of a summary for the people listening.
Well, and they did that all with
Zeb is.
Right. They did that all without any of those pieces being the driving plot of the episode. Yeah, it was all Paul Sun-Hyung Lee and his Carson Teva character that is one of the X-Wing pilots that has been kind of weaved in and out of the plot over the course that he got to shine in this episode, and it was great to see him, get some legs.
It was really great, and I love that they're still using that character. That he was in a couple episodes of Mandalorian, maybe like one in season 1, one in season 2. He's
Yep.
also in an episode of Boba Fett, Mandalorian centric episode of Boba Fett, and now he's here. So it's like a character that we recognize. We kind of know his deal. He's like, just a ranger of the New Republic. Just, I assume like X-wing pilots have become like beat cops almost.
That's what it seems like, yeah.
Yeah, like I patrol the outer rim or like these couple planets or whatever, and
Oh yeah. Well, and they went back to my wife's watching Top Gun Maverick right now.
Oh yeah.
And so we started it last night, and then she's finishing it tonight. And all I could think of is, when he goes back to a Delphi base, that's the hard deck, like where we meet Zeb.
Right.
Like it's the bar from Top Gun. It's the Star Wars version of Top Gun, which, as anyone who listens knows, is exactly what I want to see in a movie. So if we could just get more of that, that'd be great.
Yeah. Okay, so those of you who don't know who Zeb is and why Steve and I are freaking out about him, is that means that you have never watched the animated series Star Wars Rebels, which is incredible and wonderful. And this character is one of the main characters of the core. It's a core, like a classic ragtag group of misfits that come together, and there's like 5, I think, of them, right?
Originally, yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
There's
Ezra
some in and out.
Yeah, Ezra, Kanan, Zeb,
Hera and
Sabine,
Sabine.
and Hera.
And Chopper.
Yeah, and Chopper. Yeah, so if you count the droid, then there's 6. But Zeb is one of the main ones, and I never, we're getting all these like drops and hints and announcements of Rebel characters that have been cast or have appeared or will appear. We know that, wasn't it confirmed that Mary Elizabeth Winstead is playing Hera Syndulla in Ahsoka, the Ahsoka show?
I don't know if it was confirmed who she was playing. It was confirmed she was in it.
I think it was. She's definitely in it, but
high speculation, I think.
I remember hearing that she was playing Hera, which would fit because that's a big character and she's a pretty solid actress and she's a name.
Yep.
So that would fit.
Well, and it continues. It would continue the trend because Ewan McGregor's uncle is in Star Wars, is Wedge.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then her husband is Obi-Wan.
Yes, that's true.
Their partner.
Yeah.
I don't know what they go by, but
yeah, she's married or in love with
Ewan McGregor. Yeah.
And then we know they cast someone as Ezra, didn't they? Cast someone as Ezra Bridger in Ahsoka?
The same kind of deal where they cast someone who it was very easy to infer that that's going to be Ezra.
Yeah.
And then Sabine was officially
was
it Natasha Bordulizo or something? Don't know where that popped out of my brain from, but
so we're getting all these Rebel character announcements. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we see another one in Mandalorian.
Right. That I
makes
don't
me think that they're like, how cool would it be to get a 5th season of Rebels, but in live action? Wouldn't that be amazing?
Oh yeah. Well, and
I'm
I'm almost curious, and again, down the rabbit hole here, but by the end of this, do we see like a Thrawn cameo setting up the big bad for the rest of everything going on out here? We've gotten Mount Tannis in Bad Batch. We've gotten Zeb here. We've got the inference that everything's going towards him. Like Ahsoka literally mentions him in
says his name.
Season 2. Like, is that where this is driving? And please let Lars Mikkelsen play him.
I know that he's I feel like he's going to be the focus or a plot point of the Ahsoka show.
Yeah.
Whether or not they want to reveal him before that, I guess remains to be seen. We are pretty off the rails when it comes to talking about the episode
that never happens.
Mandalorian at this point. But yeah, no, I guess more on that as it develops, more on live action Rebel characters. And if you haven't watched Star Wars Rebels, you really should. It's great.
Yeah.
I guess just watch it.
Easy top 10.
Watch Clone Wars.
Yeah, easy top 10 Star Wars for me.
Yeah, it's also easier to get into than Clone Wars, I think, because a lot of people think the first couple seasons of Clone Wars are a little clunky. on my rewatch am realizing it's not. It's just not what you expected it to be. Like so much of Star Wars.
Mhm.
If you go in knowing what it is, I think it's really good. Anyway, Rebels much easier to get into. Is more like accessible because there are they're new characters, so you don't
Yeah.
have expectations. You are learning about them as you watch them. So, it's excellent.
But yeah, back to
But
Gorian Shard and his merry pirate gang.
yes, Gorian Shard being
Swamp Thing.
fish face swamp thing.
Yep.
Space fish swamp thing guy.
There you go.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Love bring. It's like so like there's no possible way that that design of that character wasn't specifically a ripoff of Swamp Thing. Like
No,
there's just
100%.
besides the fish mouth, even like the triangle kind of nose and like the two things that come down from his, like the bridge of his nose, like
Yeah.
around his face, like that's Swamp Thing. Like that's the only character in history that has that little like
Well,
thing. I don't know.
Man
that
Thing,
I know
but-
of. No, Man Thing's got
Well,
like
yeah.
the
Oh, yeah. He's got the
tendril.
mouth
Like, he's got
tentacle.
like
Yeah.
the yeah.
Comes
mouth
from below,
tentacle
not
thing.
from. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Maybe it was seaweed salad that he was just looking at when they created it. I don't know.
But it doesn't matter. Yeah, we got more of Gorian Shard. Did he die at the end of this? He just ran
He-
away.
No, he was
I
on
don't-
the ship that went down.
Oh, the ship blew up. That's right.
Vane,
Okay, yeah, so
his
he's-
second in
he died.
command there.
The other guy flew away. Yeah.
And this actually,
I would-
so quick sidebar on that. So Vane, his second in command, took off. I heard a thought on the Thank the Maker podcast, which is actually a bunch of guys from various bands that have a Star Wars podcast.
I'm jealous. Okay.
Well, you're a guy from a band that has a Star Wars podcast.
It's not specifically a Star
Well,
Wars podcast.
Right
but
now it is.
Yeah. Right now it is.
But they were saying, is Vane heading off because there's only so many notable pirates out there? There's one big one that's really tied into all this rebel stuff.
When I saw that the name of this episode was The Pirate, I immediately thought we're gonna meet Hondo Onaka, like a live version of Hondo in this
Yep.
episode. I was wrong, but I still think it's possible.
Yeah.
Because the character's been around. The character is first introduced in Clone Wars, and then he's a big time in Rebels. And I mean, I don't mean to spoil anything for you, Steve, but Hondo Onaka plays a pretty pivotal role in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, like he's there.
Yep.
See that guy. So I don't know if they're like, let's take this character and blow him up a little bit. But maybe we'll see him in I feel like he's a character that has big potential to appear in live action.
Oh yeah. And could translate well. Like it's
Yeah.
easy enough to pull him off.
Yeah, I agree. I really loved the action in this episode was great. I think like the Mandalorians invading Navarro, were like coming down from the gunship with their
Yep.
jetpacks. That was awesome. Like landing and just like wrecking shop. Was really awesome. We got to see the armorer beat the hell out of somebody with their little like armorer.
Yeah, with the
gloves,
hammer
which was
and
great. Yeah.
tongs. Wait, we're actually
really like.
we're going to talk about Mandalorians in the Mandalorian, not everything but, which we just did for the last
Yeah, I'm
however long.
trying to hone it back in so we can
Okay.
at least wrap it up.
Fair
We
enough.
got a whole episode to do. But I was confused a little bit at the end when the armor asked Bo-Katan to take her helmet off.
Yeah.
But by the end of it, my assumption was that just like because the armorer knows that Bo-Katan, like she says, you walk between two worlds or whatever, between
Mhm.
both of our worlds. You are the one that can unite our people. But the first time the armorer said, we need to bring all Mandalorians on board, we need to bring them all here, I thought she was saying we need to convert all of them to our obsessed cult that never takes their helmets off.
Right.
But I don't think that's what she's saying. I think she just means like Mandalorians in general.
Mhm.
We need to regroup and reform, and this could be the planet that we are able to do it on, since we are welcome here and we have been granted our own
Right.
land. And she recognizes that Bo-Katan is a true leader, having led the Mandalorians this attack on like the pirates on Navarro like successfully.
Mhm.
She's the true leader that can do it, despite her not having the Darksaber, which I mean that's still gotta happen at some point, right? Like she's gonna have to challenge Din for the Darksaber at some point.
There's got to be something that happens because, well, that's kind of a big deal.
Kind of is a big deal. Kind of is a big deal. And then I mean, I was about to call it a post-credit scene, but it was not a post-credit scene. It just seemed
Very
like,
much felt like it, though.
felt like it should have been, but they didn't want people to not see it.
Yeah.
So they put it before the credits rolled. The same pilot,
Carson Teva.
Carson Teva, sure, finds the ship that was transporting Moff Gideon, and it's been wrecked, and Gideon is gone, and he finds a fragment of Beskar alloy, implying that it was Mandalorians that broke Gideon out. Do you think that Mandalorians are the ones that broke Moff Gideon out, or do you think they are being set up?
I would assume they're being back it up. Yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Okay.
still a lot of untied up, like actual Death Watch speculation, or like the Mandalorians, if you will. Any like there's those people out there somewhere that were
There's
vehement
other
followers.
asshole Mandalorians out there that could have a stake in it.
And also, who did Din get all that Beskar from? The Empire.
Oh yeah, of course. I
So
was like,
are
who
they?
did he get it from?
Are they setting him up? Are they like trying to, not necessarily Din, but like use that as a quick, red herring?
Well, the Empire famously hates Mandalorians, so
Yep.
if the Empire that is left, they even said something. We haven't mentioned at all, by the way, that Tim Meadows was in this episode.
Also
And a
true.
Great,
And a Puffer
just
Pig reference.
office. And a what?
Puffer Pig reference. Did you catch
Oh,
that?
I guess I missed that. No, I don't think I did.
Swamp Thing at one point mentioned a Puffer Pig. It was like, oh, I get that. I get that reference.
Oh, I missed it.
But yeah, Tim Meadows.
Yeah. Surprising to see him in Star Wars, but in a role that fits Tim Meadows.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a swashbuckling Jedi or anything. It was like it's an office guy.
Right.
Like
requisitions officer
admin
or something.
guy.
Yeah.
We can't do this. Yeah. In that scene somewhere, I think it was Carson, I think, that said something about the Empire's regrouping or they're becoming something else or something like that. It's just like, yo, they are setting up these sequels like crazy. They're like connecting dots for sure.
Got to fill in that gap.
Which is cool to, but it's cool to see them doing it so far in advance because there's like 20 years or whatever between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, so they have a ton of time, and we're like 5 to 7, we're like 7 years into that 20 years, so they still have a long way to go. So they can't do everything, but it's fun to see like the little breadcrumbs and then connecting them myself, being like, oh well, this could be this, and then this is going to turn into it's cool.
Oh yeah,
big fan. Hopefully the series kind of has a more of a direction moving forward than the first couple episodes here.
Yeah, this one seemed to give it its rudder.
We haven't talked about Bad Batch at all. I forgot. This is supposed to be Mando and Bad Batch.
Yeah. I think I'm putting off Bad Batch just for the visceral reaction it caused.
Oh, yeah, like putting off talking about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't often see major characters meet their demise in Star Wars, but we did.
We sure did.
Yep.
And that's a bummer. R.I.P. Tech.
Yep.
Probably should have said, I mean, you said in the beginning, spoilers.
Yeah.
These 2 episodes, but yeah, and I can't see this. I mean, it's Star Wars. They could figure out, there's been plenty of times in Star Wars where people seemed very, very dead and turned out to not be.
Right. See Maul, Darth.
Yeah. See Emperor, the.
Somehow.
Yeah. But this does not strike me as something that Tech is going to come back from. This seems like he felt because we didn't see his body. That's like
right.
the wiggle.
There's people that still think Samuel L. Jackson and Mace Windu are kicking. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I know.
But yeah, I think Tech, the way they set him up this season, there was so much character development, which in my brain meant, yeah, he's gonna be. It makes sense that he's dead.
Dude, in this episode, or I mean, the season finale was 2 episodes. They just
Yeah.
released 2 episodes at once. It wasn't like an hour-long episode. It's just 2 regular 23-minute whatever ones. In the beginning of the first one, episode 15, that woman
Fee.
that Wanda Sykes
Yep.
voices literally like flirted with him and was like, make sure you come home or something like that, you
Yeah.
know? And right then
The death knell.
I should
Yeah.
have been like, oh, he's gonna die.
Yeah.
But I wasn't. But as soon as he did, I was like, oh, of course he died because they gave him a reason to live. Like
Right.
That's how it always works.
I had the same reaction.
The character that suddenly gets a reason to live is about to die, 100% of the time. So yeah, I should have seen it coming. But other than that, this was a really great 2 episodes, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Super cool stuff. And like we mentioned Cameo City earlier, not only did we get a sit-down meeting with Governor Tarkin, you know, commander of the Death Star in Star Wars A New Hope. Who else is sitting at that table with him but director Krennic? And although he does not say a word, it's clearly modeled to look like Ben Mendelsohn. He's wearing the white, kind of like officer stuff like he does in Rogue One. And at the end of that meeting, Tarkin turns to Mendelsohn. Tarkin turns to, not Mendelsohn, that's the actor's name, turns to Krennic and says, please give us an update on Project Stardust, which is the project name for the building of the Death Star. These are direct Rogue One references, which I love seeing. Because I feel like we don't get a ton of them, besides like Andor, which the only reference to it is that the guy is in it. You know, like they don't reference any like plot points from Rogue One. It's just the same character, Cassian. But this was like Easter egg Rogue One, Easter egg Rogue One. I was like, yeah,
Saw Gerrera.
So cool. And then Saw Gerrera shows up like 2 minutes later. Yeah, it was so awesome. Because I was like, oh, why are those stormtroopers fighting? I was like, who are those possibly going to be? Like, I have no idea in this timeline who would be dressed like stormtroopers. And I was like, oh, Saw Gerrera, of course, and his team. Amazing. So cool. And then, so like, yeah, then Tech dies in the beginning of the second episode. That was a cool scene with the trains. I think Star Wars needs spend more time on trains, because I feel like
it worked in Solo.
A lot of time, like, I know that whole scene in Solo was awesome. That train robbery in Solo was great. And then this was super tense, not having the power, and it was so good. It's so good. Yeah,
it was 100% one of those where it wasn't obvious how they were going to get their way out of that. So like a lot of times, you know, they, especially in, you know, some of these shows that can be a little more rote, they get into a pickle and you're like, oh, okay, this is how they're going to get out. Let's see what's going on, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
With that, it was that whole scene. It was just like, I don't know what's going on. So let's just keep riding it and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Keeps the tension high because you don't know. It's not obvious. Yeah. So they go back to Ord Mantell, where their old buddy Sid seems to take them in, but then sells them out to the Empire, which is a bummer.
Yep. And over the course of the season, she had been kind of slowly distancing herself from the guys.
Adversarial. So, yeah, for sure. And they all get captured, and they take Omega away to the clone factory on wherever. What's the name of that mountain again?
Mount Tantus on Wayland.
Mount Tantus on Wayland, the planet Wayland.
Yep. Or at least it was in the EU. I don't know if it still is there.
Okay. Now, you said, was it at the beginning of this episode, or was it before we started recording that you said you had something to say about Mount Tantus in general, or the cloning facilities?
Yeah. No. So Mount Tantus is in the Star Wars lore from the original Thrawn trilogy. That's where it featured.
Okay.
Where Thrawn and a crazy Jedi Master were trying to clone things, and there's a whole subplot around it, but very prominent in the Timothy Zahn novels, very tied to Thrawn. So I'm again, more breadcrumbs pointing to him showing up everywhere
Yeah.
very soon.
Yeah, for sure.
I would
And then
I would
the-
dive much deeper, but we don't have the time.
we don't have much time. But at the very end, Omega is pushed into this cloning chamber. She sees Crosshair tied up where we saw him last.
Yep.
And Emiri Carr reveals herself to be another female clone. We thought Omega was the only female clone that there was. This is not a huge surprise, seeing as that the woman was clearly voiced by the same woman that voices Omega. The whole, and like, she's been in other episodes this whole season, and every time I was like, I mean, sure, there's tons of people in the world from New Zealand. I get that, so they all have the same accent, but it seems weird to cast this character and have her speak with a New Zealand accent when you have so many other characters already speaking with a New Zealand accent. It's like you can't find somebody else that's clearly the same voice that's doing Omega. And I was like, oh, okay, that now it makes sense because they're genetically identical, so it needs to be the same voice, more or less.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So anyway, Bad Batch is great. Watch it if you haven't, but if you haven't, why are you watching this or why are you listening to this? I don't know. I don't know that answer. But you should go watch it if you haven't. And the other thing you should do is keep watching us because we're about to go away for like 10 seconds and we're going to come back with our whole weekly news, nerd news wrap up, a lot of Marvel stuff we're talking about. No Star Wars stuff because they're holding out till Celebration, I believe.
Yeah, which is next week.
Coming right up. So anyway, stay tuned for that, and that's all I got to say. Steve, you got anything else to say?
No,
Bad Batch or
if
Mando?
you're not coming back, then feel free to subscribe, check out all the socials, the Multiverse Report at most of them, Multiverse RPT on Twitter. Beyond that, leave us a subscription, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, and subscribe, and that'll help our cause out. Do we have a cause?
All right,
What's our cause?
Our cause is doing this podcast the best that we can possibly do to the most people that'll possibly listen. So all that stuff that Steve just mentioned, do it so we can do that. And we'll be back with a full episode in about 10 seconds. So until then, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the multiverse. Goodbye.